Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our live stream session. I'm Nicole Galacci, Talent Solutions Manager with Food Grads, also Program Partner of CareersNow. CareersNow is Food and Beverage Ontario's workforce development initiative, and we're excited to bring this session to you today. What can you do with an engineering degree? It's a question we get asked a lot, and it's something that's always interested me because I know as a recruiter it's such an important role within the food and beverage processing industry. Yet when I have gone out to different schools over the last few years and met with engineering students, I'm always interested to see how many haven't thought of the food and beverage industry as a place to work. So I'm really excited to have Dan and Swarna and Dania join us today. I'll start with Dania. She is one of our Food Grads campus ambassadors and is joining this conversation today to learn more about the career paths in the industry and certainly to ask some questions, introduce herself and ask some questions at the end. But I will pass you over to Swarna, who will share her career story and a little bit about herself and her education. So thank you, Swarna.
Thank you. So hi, everyone. My name is Swarna Arya-Kumar. I'm a senior packaging engineer at Mars Canada. I graduated from the University of Toronto from chemical engineering, and I graduated right at the recession. So I struggled in the beginning to get a job. And I started my career 13 years ago at Mars. I started off on a contract position as a quality technician in the PET plant. And I did that for 3 years. And really during this time, I really had some great opportunities to work with different teams and take on some special projects, which is where I really grew interested in the whole packaging R&D aspect of the food industry. And that's when the opportunity came up for a packaging technologist role. And I took that on as a packaging technologist. And since then, I've been in the packaging R&D field for 10 years, and I've grown within the Pack R&D family within Mars. And I started off as a technologist, worked supporting the PET plant, and then eventually took on foods as well, Mars Foods, as well, recently taking on Mars Wrigley as a senior packaging engineer, supporting all three segments within the Canadian market. So with Mars, that's one thing I really value. It's their opportunities to grow and develop is endless. There's multiple segments you can work for, multiple brands you can support, and they're really focused on development, which is really great. So it's really helped me grow within my career and to kind of be where I am today.
Can you tell us a little bit about your day-to-day responsibilities in your current role?
Yeah. So currently, I find it's very different every day, which is what I really enjoy. Because we support all three segments, we work on packaging development for products like Mars bars, which is a small flow wrap on how it runs. We need to ensure that the packaging that we're developing meets from a product safety quality perspective and from a distribution perspective. Are key factors that we need to account for when we're developing new packages. So those are kind of, if we're developing new packages, those are things that we need to consider as a packaging engineer. We also support displays. So in retail, we see a lot of displays. So developing packs to ensure that we can ship out full pallet displays of our product to so that it can be displayed at store level, and ensuring that different products can be mixed together, distributed together. Those are some aspects we need to consider as we're developing new packs.
Mm. So I thought I was on mute then. I was going to unmute myself, but I already was. So when you look at Mars overall, the organization overall, how many opportunities within the organization would you say are available to folks with an engineering background?
There's so many, within the plant, there's so many opportunities from process to within even process engineering, industrial engineering, if it's what you're interested in, but also in supply chain. There's opportunities within supply chain there's several engineers that work in supply chain, and then as well as in R&D. There's several engineers that work within the packaging R&D, as well as quality, as well as product development. So I think that there's opportunities in different cross-functional teams for engineering graduates, which is one thing that I find is very valuable with kind of an engineering degree, is the opportunities are endless, and it's really what you're passionate about. Are you more hands-on? Prefer being on the floor and working on site, or do you prefer more analytical analyzing from a process perspective? So I think there's different avenues you can explore.
Awesome. I have a bunch of questions, but I'm going to have Dan then introduce himself and talk a little bit about what he does, and then I'll ask the questions, and Danielle will get you involved, and then you can ask them to both of you at the same time. So thank you. Thanks, Dan.
All right. Hey, everybody. My name is Dan Zamora. As a career path, I've definitely had quite the adventure. I'd like to start off saying that I graduated from mechanical engineering over at Carleton University in Ottawa. Excuse me. And then from then on, I always like including that I started working at Starbucks right out of university. It wasn't my first choice, but it was definitely a humbling experience. And you definitely learn some skill sets there that you want to apply in your career choices in the future, for sure. For example, people skills, or having that energy when you don't necessarily want it to. But right after that, I went right into working as a maintenance and reliability engineer over at Weston Foods. So as a maintenance and reliability engineer, I had quite a few responsibilities. And if you're familiar with Weston Foods, there's definitely quite a few products that you would be familiar with, such as Wonder Bread. You have their tortillas. They produce cupcakes, bagels for Tim Hortons. What else we got going on there? We also have Ace Bakery, that was part of it as well at the time. And I had the opportunity of learning all these sorts of products, and specifically the machinery, especially as a maintenance and reliability engineer. You want to get to understand the types of equipment. Although the processes might be very similar, the equipment and the requirements of the equipment are going to be very different. Cupcakes are going to be formed in a different way than you would see normal plain white bread, right? But jumping a little bit further, afterwards I became a process engineer over at FGF Bakery, or not FGF Bakery, just FGF Brands, sorry. And over at FGF Brands as a process engineer, I worked a lot with OEMs. So OEM stands for operational equipment manufacturers. And with them, I'd be working with diagnosing their issues. And by issues, I would say that maybe equipment on the floor wasn't working up to par with these standards. And as a communicator or liaison between the bakery and the equipment supplier, I'd be working coming towards a solution with that. That would be just one of my responsibilities. Other responsibilities as a process engineer would come towards improving processes, really. You want to reduce the downtime that you have. You want to reduce the amount of lag time. You want to increase your output. The more output you have, the better the line is running, right? And then jumping a little bit further, I now am a ERP consultant. I moved towards the tech industry. I wanted to test the waters a little bit. I've always been really interested in the information technology industry. I've always been very keen with a lot of data analysis, a lot of processes. And as an ERP consultant over here at CSB Systems, I do talk a lot with a lot of manufacturing companies, especially in the meat industry. So my skills that I have as a process engineer are very applicable towards the tech industry, especially in this sort of position as consultant, because I need to understand all these different sorts of processes and business processes that these customers would have, and tailoring the systems that I'm trying to implement to their needs. So as you can see, I started from Starbucks and jumping into the tech industry here. So it was quite the adventure.
So same question to you, Dan, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit like your day to day. It's one of the questions I get the most when young people are thinking about what to do for a career. It's like they almost have like the job description, but then they but the real question is, what do you wake up, you go to work, or you go to your office at home? Lots of people do now. What do you do? Like, what does your typical day look like?
Sure. And I'd like to talk a little bit about my day-to-day as a engineer over at the bakeries, and then a little bit about my my ERP consultant day-to-day as well. But definitely in my day-to-day as a engineer over at the bakery, maintenance, reliability, or process engineer, it was very key that I would be at the bakery itself. It's very important that once you're at the bakery, you're able to absorb, see everything that's going on. It's really difficult to understand a bakery from home. Although you are capable of doing it, you're really missing out on that nice fun adventure there. And when I was a maintenance reliability engineer, my day-to-days, I would wake up, I would want to first see what my emails are. And usually I'm communicating with multiple bakeries. Weston Foods at the time owned quite a few bakeries, like around 30. And I'd be talking to a few of them regarding their maintenance issues. Or for example, I have an ongoing project that my director at the time provided me. There's an issue with the rubberized O-rings over at a bakery. They're what's the word? They're breaking down too quickly. So I had to work towards adjusting that. And then on top of that, you'd also want to answer any questions, especially as a corporate engineer and sort of a guiding figure towards some of these bakeries in terms of maintenance best practices. So what do I do with this work order? When's the best time to do on this work order? How do we make these preventative maintenance procedures more efficient? So some of these tasks here are things that were ongoing throughout my career there. As a process engineer, additionally, I'd be over there at the bakery. I'd want to be, let's see, I'm trying to think of an example here. I'd be helping starting a new manufacturing line. And at that new manufacturing line, you definitely want to be able to be there on the floor. You want to see how much we're outputting, how much we want to output, and why aren't we outputting that much? And so you want to communicate with different departments. There's a lot of cross-functionality there. It's not necessarily you and the engineering team. You want to be communicating with operations, sanitation, production. It's definitely a group effort there. And as a process engineer, you would be working with either one bakery or multiple bakeries. There's different kind of categories that you want to work with. And as categories, I do mean like different types of bread, muffins, cakes. I feel like I touched a little bit about what I wanted there as an engineer. As an ERP consultant now, it's a little bit more discussion oriented and working with different customers, trying to understand their certain software needs. So for example, today, the first thing I did was, again, check my emails, see if there's anything incredibly pending. Fortunately, there wasn't. And then I will go ahead and tackle whatever I needed to do that I tasked myself with for the week. So whether that be an ongoing project that I have, in 2 weeks, I have a project down in the States that I'm going to be implementing. Or if I have additional customers that are still trying to get the hang of their product and they have some questions. So as a consultant, I want to understand their system processes and be able to give them the answer that they want in a way that they can understand. Just because everybody has different words for their current processes, but we're all talking the same thing, right? Yeah.
Dania, I want to bring you into the conversation too, if that's okay. If you want to sort of go ahead and introduce yourself and why you were interested to join this conversation today, and then we can ask questions and just have a dialogue. I've got a bunch of questions, but yeah, I'd love your questions too.
Perfect. So hi, everyone. My name is Dania. I just wanted to say a big thank you to Nicole. It's definitely a pleasure to participate in this session and have the opportunity to represent undergraduate students interested in pursuing a career in engineering in the food industry. So just a little bit about myself. I am a third-year food science student at the University of Guelph. I am also a campus ambassador for food grads, and I am currently interested in pursuing a career in research and specifically food chemistry and packaging. So the questions that I have for you, Dan and Swarna, are, so the first one is, could you give us a rundown of your hands-on experience and educational journey and how you were able to pave your way into your current professional position.
Swana, you want to go first?
Sure. So great question. I think for myself, after graduation, I think mentors have been a critical part of kind of my career and my growth. Having a great mentor to coach you and kind of really guide you, and also asking the questions on kind of what you're interested in and kind of if there's something of interest, reaching out to whether it's your coach or your mentor and or your manager and saying, hey, this is what I'd like to pursue or am interested in learning more about, has really helped kind of throughout different opportunities within my roles. Continuously looking at ways to learn. I think taking special projects and being hands-on and kind of being out on the floor really is what gave me the opportunity to understand what a packaging engineer would do, going into as a quality technician, kind of working with process engineers and looking at continuous improvement projects. Allowed me to understand kind of the whole how projects are managed, working with cross-functional teams, and also building those relationships. I think have been a critical part of growing within your reaching your career goals and kind of growing and getting to the position that you want to be. Not sure. I hope that answered your question, Dania.
No, that's perfect. I think one thing that is underrated is making connections with not only like your professors, but also the people you work with as well. So I think that's very helpful for people to basically excel and to find like a good job. Yeah.
100%.
How about you,
networking?
Yeah, no, it was definitely well said there. I definitely want to hop onto the bandwagon of talking about mentors, and it's definitely great advice there. The best way to get the best exposure is to have a great mentor, whether in the company or outside of the company. Like you said, professors are great guiding factors there as well. The one I'm thinking about in particular really pushed me towards areas that I didn't like, and I wouldn't have known if I didn't like it if he didn't push me towards it and I didn't try it. Similarly, if there's something that I was interested, like Swarna said, he would keep it in mind and let me know that, hey, there's an opportunity coming along. There's these projects that we need assistance with, and I dropped your name, just to get you along onto the boat there. No, it was definitely well said by Swarna.
Perfect. Do you have more? Yeah, you go ahead with your questions.
Oh, sorry. So my next question is kind of an add-on to this. So do you guys know of any specific certifications or like specialized training programs that you would recommend to students interested in packaging or maintenance engineering by any chance?
PAC offers a really good certification program on packaging. It's a 4-course program. That was really the first program that I took getting into packaging. Found it very a great program. It encompassed kind of 4 modules, and you got to go on tours. I don't know if they still do the tours, but it was very hands-on and gave you a lot of exposure, especially with sustainability coming up. They even have a new modular now on designing for circularity, which I think is great.
Definitely. And to add on to that, when I was moving from maintenance to process engineering, I really got an interest into Lean Six Sigma. So I know there's a great course taught at U of T, and sort of picked up my understanding of Lean Six Sigma from green belt to black belt over there. Yeah, it'd be very useful outside of engineering as well, and something that I recommend at least looking into. And if you're interested more into the baking industry, there's a lot of resources, especially with certain forums like ABA and BEMA. They provide a lot of good information on their resource websites.
That's awesome.
I'm
And
curious if I can.
sorry, go
Sorry,
ahead.
I was going to say I'm curious as to Daniel. What is your interest? What's made you? I'm always curious because we spend our goal is to attract young people into the industry, and so it's so exciting to hear that this is what you've chosen. You know, you're in this food science program, and to know already that this is the avenue you want to take. Why do you want to do it though? I'm just curious.
So basically, before I was in food science, I was actually in like a completely different program, and I came across the food science program. Like I've never heard of it, but I came across the program from a friend, and so I started going to a few classes with her just to see like what they do and like the possible job opportunities they have. So I did take a so now that I'm in food science, I took a food chemistry and a food packaging course, and I found it very interesting, and I just immediately knew that that's what I wanted to do. So it's a little bit it's different than because I switched from second year, so it's a little bit different than how most people started, I guess, their educational journey. So it's a little bit untraditional. But yeah, it's just I think it's just that I lost interest from the program that I was in, and yeah.
Like jigged. I don't know anyone that's got a linear kind of thought out process. And as a recruiter for 10 years, everybody's career zigs and zags. And I always say now to younger people, you don't have to have it all figured out, because I interview for a living, and literally it's always a different pathway. Never the same. I'd love to hear from Swana and Dana why you chose the food industry. What encouraged you to explore a position in the first place, and maybe to add on to that, what misconceptions you think there are in the food industry, because I think there are a lot, and you know, it's only from hearing from people actually that work in the industry that I think we could perhaps dispel some of those myths.
Right. So the main reason why I was actually interested in food science was that I loved food and I love science. So I just knew that it was for me. And I think a lot, like the main misconception with working in the food industry is that people think that you're always directly working with food, which is obviously is not the case. There's always a lot of people that ask me what would you do with a food science degree? And yeah, there's so many different things you can be. You can work in marketing, just like you guys are engineering. Like it just doesn't have to be like your typical like hands-on, like directly working in contact with food. So I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions.
I would agree. Swana, you want to add to that?
Yeah, for me, it was actually, I didn't graduate after graduating from chemical engineering. I really wanted to get into the pharmaceutical industry. That was really kind of the path I had thought after graduation. But when I got my first role at Mars, I couldn't turn back. It was just, there's so many opportunities, to Daniel's point. And there's so much to learn. Like, I feel like for me personally, I love the technical aspect of things, but then I also love the creative aspect of things. So being able to work with cross-functional teams, marketing, sales, it really gives you that opportunity to kind of work from a technical on the floor and get your hands-on experience, but also get your work on creative aspect of things as well. So I completely agree that there's so much to learn and do within the food industry. Opportunities are endless, I think.
Yeah, and if I could add on to that, coming out of mechanical engineering. I thought I was just going to be an HVAC engineer, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. But with this opportunity coming along, being in the baking industry, it was just like, wow, an engineer in the baking industry, especially as somebody that didn't really know about it. It was just like, what does an engineer do in the baking industry? Isn't it just bakers that go there? But as I did more research, of course, there's so much complexity that comes to it. It really is something as simple as a few temperatures of degree change can make the biggest change in the world, whether it be in the actual baked good or if it's going to affect it all the way down to packaging it. There's just so much opportunity in the baking in the food industry, and really it like you said, Danya, it's not limited to just engineering. There really is like I have friends that did food science over at University of Guelph, and they also do R&D, and they really enjoy it. They love seeing the fermentation process. They love seeing their pride coming out of that oven and seeing it firsthand. Additionally, you like you said, you can also do marketing. There's data analysis. There's sanitation if you're really interested in that as well. Like it's so much opportunity.
And it's interesting because you've both joined the food industry, and you know, like Swana said, once you were in there, that's it. Like, and I hear that. That's as a recruiter, I hear that time and time again. It's not something that somebody intentionally starts out thinking, oh, I want to work in food and beverage processing. However, you know, once you're in, you don't leave. And I think it's to do with the people. I think it's to do with the opportunities. I feel like it's a unique industry that does promote from within as well. You know, you can start in one area and move around in the organization. You don't have to leave the company necessarily. You can move around within. And I think the biggest thing is the misconception around it. People think of food processing as the same realm as food service and minimum wages, and you know, they sort of tag it on there, when obviously we know that's very different. There's very competitive salaries. You know, you get the benefits. You get it's a corporate role. Oftentimes, even if it's, you know, on the factory floor or in the corporate office, it's, you know, those good wages exist, are plentiful, and it's just a case of understanding exactly what you want and trying different things within the organization. So you know, I love your answers there. I think it's great to hear from you that, you know, that you are enjoying it. In terms of Daniel, you go ahead. Do you have any? You go ahead with any questions you may have.
I just have a last question.
Yeah.
So what piece of advice would you give in engineering students or even grads who are considering working in the food industry?
I would say it's a great opportunity. If like as a new grad, I know sometimes we think about what is that right job? We want that perfect job. I would say if there's something that you're interested in, go for it. There's so many different opportunities that will come through as you're networking within the food industry, and you'll be able to kind of find out where your passion and your interest lay. Ask the questions, find a great mentor, and reach out and ask the questions, and express your interest. And you own your own development. So if there's something you want to grow in, reach out and pursue it.
Definitely. And if I could add on to that, I feel like the two things that I really kept in mind was definitely to just not give up, essentially be persistent with what you want. And, you know, it's going to be a difficult but very rewarding path after you graduate. And to also don't be afraid of taking risks. Like myself and like Nicole said, it's your first step might not be your last step. You're going to be going in so many directions. It's really just make sure you're enjoying the adventure, right? Like there's so much more to just making the right choice. It's really the learning aspect of it that's really important.
I wonder if you could address this question. We did a session on sustainability, and I think packaging is such an impactful conversation. A lot of young people that we talk to, they want to make a difference. They don't just want a job; they want a purpose in life, and we hear that a lot. So, in terms of what you're doing at Mars, would you be able to sort of dive into how you are addressing more broader sustainability concerns, what you're doing there, and how really in general your role makes an impact?
Yeah, sustainability is a huge aspect of our role as Mars and their sustainable and generation plan. Packaging, reducing our packaging is a critical aspect, and within our role, we're working towards looking at new packs, how to make our packs more recyclable, reusable, compostable. So it's definitely an aspect, an avenue that is a key focus and that we're working towards. So huge part, definitely a passion of mine in kind of the work I do is that's what excites me. It's something, it's evolving, it's changing every day, and you're learning every day. So it's definitely been something that I'm passionate about. And Mars we're working towards meeting our commitments and making an impact.
And Dan, in your role, I know you're meeting with multiple, you mentioned meat employers. You go into their organization, you support them with regards to ERP. Is sustainability top of mind? Is it something that you have to sort of focus on? You'd hope. I think the food industry has a lot of impact in that area, so it's just interesting to hear your side of things when you are meeting multiple different organizations.
Definitely. I think I'm still exploring that area, but I would say that sustainability is always a priority, especially in the sense that the ERP software that I'm creating, if the benefit of it is to sort of fine tune your processes and reduce waste, that in turn would be reducing or improving sustainability, reducing waste, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I could tailor it towards that way, yeah.
We do have a question. When designing things for the food industry, it can be really large projects. What do you do if things don't go according to plan? Maybe Swana, you maybe have an experience there. I guess when you have to pivot.
Yeah, I feel like within you're going to be pivoting and with projects all the time, and I think it's that communication and collaboration, which I think is critical and which will help you kind of guide kind of how you carry the project forward, and having open conversations with the cross-functional teams from kickoff, I think is very critical. If there's hurdles that you're anticipating, you're not hitting rates, I think communicating that upfront versus waiting till the end is critical. So I think it's something you're definitely going to face as you're working on multiple different projects, and the complexity of different projects play a huge factor in it, and kind of the sites that you need to make sure these package format work at, I think play a huge can impact. But for me, it's building that connection, the relationships, having those communications, documenting kind of the work are kind of the key things, which will help.
Mm-hmm. Dan, do you have anything to add there?
It's hard for me to add on to that, but I do want to emphasize the communication part. You want to make sure that the key stakeholders are aware of what's going on, and if they need to be aware of it, because if something is lacking behind and the certain people aren't aware, during projects, sometimes it usually isn't going to go as planned. So you want to have those contingencies. You want to ensure that people are aware and how we're going to address it, really.
I have a question, and Dania, please jump in if you have anything. I can keep asking questions, but talk about one thing that we were not anticipating and things not going according to plan. Obviously, was the pandemic. COVID definitely impacted the food industry. I kind of liken it to the fact, though, that a lot of industries had to lay people off. I think this is an amazing industry because we grew during that time. I think, we suffered like any other, but we didn't shut things down. Like, we had to keep going. That people were relying on the food industry to keep the shelves full, so that they could shelter in place and just go and pick up food from the grocery store. So I think our industry was, we were, I don't say we, the people in the industry, superheroes, because they had to go out to work every day. So a question that I had, because I think that's the ultimate kind of curveball, how did your job change when COVID hit? I'm just curious how you had to pivot and what changed in your role. And certainly maybe from that, what you haven't gone back to, because I think we learned a lot as well. So, maybe Swana, you want to go first? What changed, how you had to adapt, and then perhaps what your role looks like now? Maybe you have fully gone back, or maybe not.
Yeah, I think some of the key things was we had to be creative on how we mocked up samples, and we had to get we didn't have access or have that flexibility to go to our labs to do all the testing and on-pack kind of quick tests we can do. So we had to come up with creative ways to do the simulation testings at home. So that was definitely an interesting kind of time. Luckily, we're back in the office and we have access to our labs now, but that was definitely kind of a challenging time during COVID, is kind of thinking outside the box and how we can design packages, size up packs, and kind of use paper that we had at home to think of different ways to look at opportunities. But I think it also helped in terms of now, like, being able to be on site and having that flexibility of kind of being able to do it, work from home as well as in the office. I think really showed us like we can do it both ways, and then just having more samples shipped to the house, and kind of you got to do what you got to do is but yeah, definitely I would say that was the most challenging part, is kind of figuring out how to run line trials without being on site, because they were trying to limit who can be on site during production. So video calls, but I think it's a great new tool. You don't have to travel and commute to different sites now. You have that flexibility to run line trials, but then still be on site and kind of understanding what the process is like. So I think that's definitely something that has helped from COVID. But then there's nothing like being on site and in person when you're running line trials or doing testing.
Definitely, and from a maintenance perspective, I think the biggest challenge there was similarly the limitation of people that you could have on site, because for maintenance you need a certain amount of technicians to be maintaining the equipment and making adjustments, and with the limitations in Ontario at the time, it was hard to meet the certain threshold that we wanted in order to complete all the preventive maintenance procedures that we needed. So again, you had to be unique in a certain way of scheduling out these work that need to be done, which ones can be prioritized, which ones can be pushed back just a little bit. And then luckily, moving forward, as things became to calm down and the restrictions got lifted, things started to get picked up back to normal again.
Mm-hmm. It was definitely a challenging time, and I think one of the struggles that the industry does see is that there is such a need to be on site because of the nature of the industry. So that's a struggle that we have as an industry, to attract people, because people think they want to work from home and have that flexibility. And I think it's not until they actually do that they realize it's actually nice to be with people, and maybe the answer is that hybrid model, because you get a day or two at home. But I think the food industry is always going to be one, especially depending on the role, where you're going to have to be on site. Like certainly hearing your feedback. Depending on the position you're in. In terms of innovation and technology, how do you see the industry changing? That's another area that we do promote when people aren't aware of food and beverage processing, because there is so much. I think they think of hairnets and factories, and there is an element of that for sure. But certainly automation, robots, these things are taking hold in the food and beverage processing sector. Maybe a little slower in this sector compared to other manufacturing sectors, but definitely, there's changes going on. Swana, maybe you could speak to that, what you've seen in your time at Mars, and what you see in the future, what we're talking about in terms of automation.
Yeah, automation is definitely a hot topic, especially after COVID. I find the focus on automating kind of processes, whether it's online, whether it's with development. I think it's definitely the direction the industries are moving towards. How do we simplify and simulate some of the work that we do is kind of the direction I foresee kind of long term. So yeah, automation is definitely a critical part of the food industry, I believe.
Yeah, and I definitely agree on there. From perspective, I've seen some very old bakeries starting in, for example, like 1980s, and seeing the equipment change from then to such a technology emphasized bakery like at FGF. It's a huge difference, and I could definitely see it advancing quite a bit. There's so much advancement there, not limited to just Canada, but there's a lot going on in the States or even in Europe. There's a lot of ingenious ideas, and if you ever have the opportunity to go to one of these expos, you could see them firsthand and see these suppliers showing their equipment, showing those cool technologies there as well.
And from what I'm hearing from industry, it's very much a message of it's not going to reduce the staff that we need, the workforce per se. It's just going to change the skill set that they'll need, in order to do the jobs. Somebody's always got to take care of these machines. Someone still has to fix them. Someone still has to work the continuous improvement part. So I think that's a message that's loud and clear as well. That things do develop and innovation and technology have a place, but it's not instead of humans. We're going to still need people to work in the industry. So I wanted to sort of switch gears a little bit more around. I've got a bunch more questions, and I'm really cognizant of our time because I know I want to certainly be done by 5 o'clock and respect your time. I guess just so that you can highlight your companies a little bit more. Swana, maybe you could sort of share, why would a new grad want to explore a position at Mars? Like what would you say are the highlights of working at Mars, and why is a new grad out of school? And maybe there's there's pros and cons because it's a large organization. Whatever you feel would be appropriate to share with us. But yeah, why would a new grad want to work at Mars?
For me, I think from Mars is a principle-driven company. So I think that is they're really focused on their purpose and their principles. I think that's really important for me. And as a new grad, you're kind of, to what you were saying earlier, we're all looking for a purpose and kind of in the work that we do. And Mars is really focused on kind of the work we do today. The way we do work today is really how the world we want today is how is based on how we do our business today. So I think that is definitely a critical part. And then also the opportunities for development, I think is endless. Like their focus on development is really what I value. And the associates, I think the associates and the people at Mars is what really keeps everyone there. It's the culture and the environment are really critical. So those are kind of 3 things that I really value about Mars.
Excellent. And Dan, CSB.
Yeah, and then it's hard to top Swarna's comments, but really it comes down to the same thing. Over at CSB, I definitely value the culture over here. They really encourage personal development, which is something that I'm looking after. In addition, the unique challenges that you have, especially as an engineer, you want to definitely stretch that critical thinking muscle that you got going on and apply it in different ways rather than just using formulas. There's people with requirements, and like how do we solve those? How do we address that? And the the challenges of that are really exciting to me. But if I were to sort of slip in FGF there, I do say that that was also an amazing company in terms of their co-op programs and even the opportunities of development there. It really was, it almost seemed endless, and it's a great place to start if you are curious about the baking industry itself.
And would you say you can move into other sectors easy? I mean, you've done it. You went from baking to meat. Working with a lot of meat organizations. Is it easy, in your opinion? Dan, maybe you want to start, and then Swan more or less.
It definitely made it a little bit easier. Getting to know the meat industry a little bit more. The processes are similar, if not just a little bit more different when it comes to the more defined cutting processes when it comes to meat. I felt that I found the bakery industry a little bit more enjoyable just because of the smell of walking into a bakery. But the challenges when it comes to meat and baking is very similar. Like end of the day, we have our raw materials, and how do we get that out and get them as a finished good product for our customers, right? The applications of both industries are very similar, especially the applications of both jobs as a process engineer to an ERP consultant.
Mm-hmm. Swana, how would you rate sort of the crossover even with the pet food versus human food?
It's really because our head office is all segments are within the head office. It's really easy to build those relationships and really finding those opportunities. Moving from one segment to another is definitely something that Mars encourages and promotes. So it really makes it easy transitioning from a role within Mars Wrigley to Mars Pet. And there's also from my perspective, my role is it supports all segments. So you get that opportunity and exposure to multiple segments as well. So there's roles within core where you support multiple segments as well. So definitely a lot of opportunities in that sense.
Lots of variety. You don't get bored.
Yeah. Exactly. Definitely don't get bored.
Dania, do you have any final thoughts or questions you want to share today?
Yes, I have a quick question. So what are some unique challenges you guys go through in terms of being a maintenance or packaging engineer? I know it's different than how different is it in comparison to other industries? Like, is there anything that stands out perhaps?
I think for myself, it's changing every day in terms of the world of sustainability and kind of how we design our packs and kind of how we ensure different infrastructures in our packages meet different legislations and regulations that are coming forward in Canada. So I think it's an evolving space and where there's a lot of unknown and ambiguity, which we have to kind of understand and kind of work and impacts the work we do. So I think that's been a learning curve and definitely a challenging learning opportunity as we're all in this kind of new space together.
Definitely. And for myself from the maintenance engineer perspective, I think the uniqueness would come from considering all the different kinds of departments that you have to consider. So for example, just a simple change for a machine, you have to talk to production and be like, hey, can I have this machine available to perform maintenance? And you want to have sanitation on site. You want to ask them, hey, can you assist us with cleaning this? Does it need to be cleaned beforehand? And then on top of that, maybe you're gonna have an issue with getting customer requirements for that machine, or maybe just direction from regulation, like we can't use a certain type of oil on that machine because it's not food safe. So the uniqueness of talking with different departments, it makes it more fun.
And last question to round off the afternoon. What's your number one piece of advice for a new graduate that has an engineering background and is interested to move into the food industry? What would your number one piece of advice be for that new grad? Swana, sorry, go ahead first if you want, or Dan.
I think the number one advice is there's lots of opportunities. Don't hesitate. Take that first step and go for it. Yeah, I think that would be my
Take the leap. Yeah.
Take the leap. Take that first step.
Yeah, that was a great suggestion. Definitely networking and understanding the industry as best as you can would be pretty swell idea too. If you're, I keep coming back to baking, but if you're really interested in baking, the baking industry, maybe try baking bread yourself. You know, if it's something you haven't tried, just give it a try. Maybe it's something that you're interested in, breaking it down to the early stages. But to emphasize my previous point, don't be afraid to take risks. Yeah.
It's awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your thoughts and your own career story. As I mentioned earlier, before we were live, we really couldn't do these types of sessions without people like yourself taking time. We know you're super busy. And so to take the time out from your busy schedules to talk to students and grads and offer this kind of advice is so, we're so grateful and really appreciate you. So I'll end just by sort of encouraging the folks that are listening, and certainly this session was recorded. So if you are listening to this after the fact, please do visit CareersNow.ca. If you're a job seeker, you can get a ton of advice there, as well as create a job seeker membership. And so, to really help you start in your career. And obviously visit foodgrads.com as well. There's a ton of information there, resources available, including our podcast, where we're having amazing conversations with people and celebrating the professions in the industry. Again, can't thank you enough. We've got 4 minutes left. I feel very good that we have got you away on time, because again, we know it takes a lot to take the time out of your day, so we really appreciate it. And Dania, to you, thank you for coming in and representing the students and being a campus ambassador with Food Grads as well. We appreciate it.
Thank you for this opportunity, and thank you guys for coming as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very welcome.
Thank you. Bye for now.